The morning air was thick with drizzle, the streets slick with the remnants of overnight rain. Serena Vale hurried along the crowded sidewalk, her bag clutched tightly to her side, her mind racing with anticipation and anxiety. Today was her big interview at a midtown firm, a company she had dreamed of joining for years. The last few months had been grueling, juggling part-time jobs and freelance work just to cover rent and bills while maintaining her studies. She was determined, focused, but the chill in the air gnawed at her resolve. Ahead, a young man struggled with his balance, clutching a handful of coins and glancing nervously at the approaching bus. His coat was soaked, shoes muddy from puddles, and desperation painted on his face. Most pedestrians would have walked past without a second thought, but Serena's heart tugged her forward. She stopped abruptly, reaching into her wallet. "Here," she said softly, holding out enough coins to cover the fare. Her fingers brushed his briefly, a spark of human connection passing in the simple gesture. The young man blinked in surprise, hesitating for just a moment before accepting the money. "I thank you. I don't know what to say," he stammered, his voice laced with relief and humility. "Just get on the bus before it leaves," Serena replied, a small smile on her lips. "Take care of yourself." He nodded, offering a faint, grateful smile, and stepped onto the bus. Serena watched him go, feeling the odd, fluttering warmth that often followed an act of kindness. Little did she know, that fleeting moment would ripple into the most pivotal encounter of her life. Shaking off the moment, Serena adjusted her bag and made her way toward the building where her interview would take place. Her mind switched to preparation mode, reviewing the notes she had meticulously prepared, rehearsing answers to potential questions, and visualizing the presentation she had crafted for the company. The building loomed ahead, sleek and imposing, glass panels reflecting the gray, rain-streaked sky. Serena paused for a breath, steadying herself. She could do this. She had worked too hard to fail now. Inside, the lobby buzzed with activity. A receptionist nodded politely, directing her to the 15th floor. Elevators hummed quietly, transporting her upward, each floor bringing a mixture of nerves and anticipation. Serena's palms were slightly sweaty, but her expression remained calm, determined. As the elevator doors opened, the hallway stretched ahead, polished and gleaming, the muted lighting reflecting off the clean marble floor. At the end, she saw the interview room, sleek, professional, and intimidating. She rolled her chair forward, taking a deep breath before entering. The door opened smoothly, and Serena stepped inside, immediately catching sight of the man who would change the course of her day, and perhaps her life. Standing there, calm, composed, and impeccably dressed in a tailored dark suit, was the same man from the bus stop yesterday. His eyes met hers, steady, unwavering, and for the first time, the world seemed to constrict around the two of them. "Good morning," he said, voice smooth and deliberate. "I hope you don't mind me arriving early." Serena froze for a fraction of a second, the recognition hitting her like a lightning bolt. It's you," she whispered, disbelief and awe mingling in her tone. The man offered a faint, enigmatic smile. "I see that you remember me," he said softly. "Yesterday, I was a stranger in need. Today, I have a slightly different role." Serena's chest tightened. "Role?" she echoed, uncertainty and curiosity swirling inside her. "Yes," he replied, his tone calm yet authoritative. "I am Jared Klein, CEO of this company, and I will be conducting your interview today." For a moment, Serena felt the room spin. The stranger she had helped, whose bus fare she had paid without a second thought, was now the man in control of her professional fate. Her heart pounded with disbelief, excitement, and a subtle thrill of connection that she couldn't quite name. Jared's gaze softened, still intense, yet warm. "I watched yesterday, Serena. Your kindness, your instinct to act without expectation. It tells me a lot about who you are. That is exactly the quality I value in someone I work with." Serena swallowed hard, processing the enormity of the moment. Not only was she facing the interview of her life, but the man before her had already judged her character through a single act of compassion. The stakes were higher than she had imagined, and the tension in the room was both professional and deeply personal. "You're more than prepared for today," Jared continued, leaning forward slightly. "And I want to see if your abilities, judgment, and character match the integrity I observed yesterday." Serena's mind raced. The small act of kindness that seemed inconsequential yesterday had become the lens through which this powerful man now viewed her. Her heart swelled with both apprehension and a strange thrill. This was no ordinary interview. This was destiny, coincidence, and an unspoken connection all intertwined. As she settled into her chair, documents in hand, Serena realized that the day had transformed from a routine interview into a cinematic, life-altering encounter. The stranger she had helped had become the most important person in the room, and the outcome of this meeting would hinge not just on skill or preparation, but on courage, character, and perhaps the first sparks of an unexpected bond. The interview began, but already Serena understood. The small act of kindness had set in motion a chain of events that would challenge her, reveal her strengths, and alter her life forever. And as she looked at Jared Klein, calm and observant, she felt a quiet anticipation of opportunity, of discovery, and perhaps of something more. The elevator doors closed behind Serena Vale as she descended to the lobby, her heart still racing from the morning's encounter. She tried to steady her breathing, reminding herself that she had prepared for this interview for months. But the image of the stranger, now known as Jared Klein, CEO of the company, lingered in her mind. Every detail from yesterday replayed. The rain streaking his coat, the quiet intensity in his eyes, and the subtle acknowledgement of her kindness. Entering the office floor, she was greeted by a receptionist, polite but busy, directing her to the conference room where the interview would officially begin. Serena carried her folder with care, documents neatly stacked, but her mind was alert, analyzing, recalling every interaction from the bus stop. The moment she opened the door, she saw Jared waiting, his presence commanding yet calm, composed in a way that made the air in the room feel charged with anticipation. "Good morning, Serena," he said. His voice smooth, carefully modulated, neither too imposing nor casual. "I hope the ride up was comfortable." Serena swallowed, nodding. "Yes, thank you. It was fine." Her voice betrayed just the faintest tremor of nerves. She couldn't help but notice how different he seemed now. No longer the vulnerable stranger from the rain, but a figure of authority, capable of shaping her immediate future. Jared gestured for her to sit, and she took a deep breath, settling into the chair. His gaze followed her movements, attentive without being intrusive. "Before we begin the formal questions," he said, "I'd like to discuss something important. Not about your resume, not about the position directly, but about the qualities I observed yesterday." Serena blinked, surprised. "Qualities?" she asked cautiously. "Yes," he replied, leaning forward slightly. "Kindness, integrity, courage. The way you acted without hesitation. That says more about you than any interview could." Her pulse quickened. It was one thing to be evaluated on skills, preparation, and experience. It was entirely another to have someone of Jared's influence recognize her character, the core of her values. I just wanted to help," she murmured, remembering the bus fare she had offered. "It wasn't anything special." Jared's faint smile carried acknowledgement, not condescension. "It was remarkable. And it's exactly the reason I wanted to meet you today. To see if your actions under ordinary circumstances reflected the same judgment, composure, and integrity you bring to professional situations." Serena's hands gripped the folder in front of her, trying to remain composed. "I understand. I think." She took a deep breath, realizing that the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about the interview anymore. It was about trust, perception, and subtle evaluation on a deeper level than she had anticipated. "Let's begin with the scenario questions," Jared said, his tone calm but deliberate. "I'd like to see how you respond under pressure, how you make decisions when outcomes are uncertain, and how you handle responsibility." The interview progressed with precision. Jared asked questions not just about skills and experience, but ethical dilemmas, problem-solving, and decision-making under pressure. Serena responded thoughtfully, balancing professionalism with honesty. She found herself relaxing slightly under his composed observation, sensing that he wasn't looking for perfection, but authenticity. At one point, Jared leaned back, studying her quietly. "You approach challenges with balance and integrity," he remarked. "It's rare. Many would take shortcuts or act impulsively. You demonstrate reflection and accountability." Serena felt a faint warmth in her chest. The acknowledgement of her character was more significant than any praise for skill or intellect. She realized that the stranger she had helped yesterday had evaluated her in ways that mattered far more than a formal resume ever could. "Your preparation is evident," Jared continued, voice soft but precise. "But your ability to remain composed, thoughtful, and principled is what sets you apart. That is why I am interested in you. Not just for this position, but for the potential I see in how you could grow with the company." Serena's mind raced. She had faced countless interviews and evaluations, but never had she been observed, analyzed, and respected in such a comprehensive, personal way. The tension was high, but it was balanced with genuine admiration, creating a surreal but empowering experience. The conversation shifted subtly, moving into discussions about her past work, her ambitions, and the principles she held. Each answer she gave was met with attentive observation rather than judgment, making her feel both seen and respected. The stranger-turned-CEO had not only identified her potential but had created a space where she could express her true self without fear. By the end of the session, Serena understood that the encounter had been about more than the job. It had been about recognizing character, understanding resilience, and creating trust. Jared's subtle approval and acknowledgement had turned what could have been a standard interview into a transformative, cinematic moment in her life. As she packed her folder, Jared stood, offering a measured, approving nod. "You've done exceptionally well today, Serena. What you've demonstrated, your judgment, composure, and integrity, are exactly what I value. I look forward to continuing this discussion and exploring how we can work together." Serena's heart raced with relief, pride, and a faint thrill of something she couldn't yet define. The man she had helped in the rain, now revealed as the CEO, had recognized her value not only professionally but personally. She realized that her small act of kindness had set in motion a chain of events that could alter her career, her future, and perhaps something more. The city lights began to glow faintly outside the window as the afternoon faded. Serena left the interview room, a mixture of nerves and excitement coursing through her. The stranger CEO had not only seen her potential but had acknowledged her character, planting the seeds of trust, professional opportunity, and the subtle beginnings of a deeper connection. The city outside hummed softly with the residual drizzle from the morning, the streets glistening with reflections of traffic lights and passing cars. Serena Vale walked through the glass doors of the company lobby, her mind a whirlwind of anticipation. The bus incident yesterday felt surreal now, a fleeting act of kindness that had unexpectedly changed the trajectory of her day, her interview, and perhaps her life. Inside, the reception was calm, but her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She clutched her folder, carefully reviewing her notes one last time. And then she saw him. Jared Klein, the stranger from the bus, now seated at a corner table, reviewing documents, calm, composed, commanding yet casual, exuding the quiet authority of a CEO. He looked up, catching her gaze. A faint smile crossed his lips, acknowledging recognition, but there was also a subtle challenge in his eyes. A test, unspoken, weighing her composure and confidence. Serena approached, nerves mingling with anticipation. "Good morning, Serena," Jared said smoothly, his voice steady yet warm. "I hope you've settled in well." She nodded, careful not to let the tremor in her voice betray her nervousness. "Yes, thank you. I'm ready." Jared gestured to the chair opposite him. "Please sit. Today this is more than just an interview. I want to see your judgment, your approach to challenges, and how you navigate uncertainty." Serena swallowed, feeling the weight of the room shift. What had begun as a professional evaluation now felt intensely personal. Each word, each glance carrying layers of expectation, scrutiny, and subtle intrigue. She opened her folder and laid out her documents, presenting her plans and ideas with a poise she had honed over months of preparation. Jared listened silently, eyes fixed on her expressions, observing the subtleties of her demeanor, the confidence and honesty in her explanations. He occasionally nodded, jotting subtle notes, but never interrupting. His focus entirely on her, assessing not only the content of her ideas but the character and intent behind them. "You present well," he said finally, leaning back in his chair. "But what impresses me more is your clarity under pressure. Many would stumble, lose focus, or become defensive. You remain composed, articulate, and authentic." Serena felt a flush rise to her cheeks. Recognition from someone of his stature, delivered without condescension, felt both validating and exhilarating. She realized that this moment was far more than an interview. It was an acknowledgement of her resilience, intelligence, and integrity. Jared's gaze softened as he continued. "Yesterday, you acted without expectation of reward or recognition. That moment was telling. It revealed your character. And now, seeing you in this professional environment, I understand that your competence matches your integrity." Her heart pounded. The CEO had observed her before she even knew he existed as more than a stranger, and now he was evaluating her not only professionally but personally. The layers of trust, respect, and subtle connection were forming faster than she had anticipated. I appreciate your feedback," Serena said softly, her hands resting lightly on the folder. "It's humbling to be recognized like this." Jared leaned forward slightly, intensity in his eyes but calm in his demeanor. "Recognition is earned, Serena. And you have earned it, not through expectation, but through action, character, and consistency. That matters more than any resume or presentation ever could." For a moment, silence fell, the quiet hum of the building the only sound between them. Serena felt a subtle shift in her understanding of the encounter. The bus fare, the stranger, the CEO. Each moment was now interwoven into a larger narrative of trust, integrity, and human connection. "Before we proceed," Jared said, leaning back and studying her quietly, "I need to ask one more thing. Can I trust you to handle responsibility not only competently, but ethically, with judgment and integrity?" Her eyes met his, unwavering despite the tension in her chest. "Yes," she said firmly. "You can." A faint smile crossed Jared's face, approving yet reserved. "Good. That is the foundation. Trust and integrity matter more than results alone. And today you've demonstrated both." The interview continued with technical scenarios, ethical dilemmas, and discussions of strategy, but the underlying tension was no longer solely professional. Both Serena and Jared were navigating a subtle emotional current, a mutual recognition, growing trust, and the quiet beginnings of something neither had anticipated. By the end of the session, Serena understood that her act of kindness yesterday had created a ripple effect far beyond her control. The stranger she helped had not only observed her character but was now evaluating her with authority, respect, and subtle admiration. As she packed her documents, Jared stood, offering a calm, approving nod. "You've shown remarkable resilience and judgment today, Serena. What I've seen confirms what I suspected yesterday. That you are someone who can handle challenges with grace, intelligence, and integrity. And that matters to me, both professionally and personally." Serena's mind whirled with anticipation and cautious excitement. The CEO, the stranger, the evaluator. He was now a central figure in her life, shaping both her career and her personal growth. The small act of paying a bus fare had set into motion a chain of events that was now reaching its cinematic crescendo. The day outside was shifting from afternoon drizzle to a muted golden glow of early evening light, reflecting softly off the building's glass facade. Serena realized that the interview was more than a professional milestone. It was a turning point in her story, one in which her integrity, courage, and subtle humanity had been noticed and rewarded. And in that charged cinematic space, the possibility of connection, emotional, professional, and perhaps romantic, was now undeniable. The stranger had revealed himself not only as a powerful CEO, but as someone whose recognition of her character could reshape her life entirely. The sun had begun to dip lower in the sky, casting a soft, neutral light through the large windows of the office. Serena Vale sat across from Jared Klein, her nerves gradually settling into a focused calm. The initial shock of discovering the stranger from the bus was now the CEO of the company had faded slightly, replaced by curiosity and a subtle anticipation. She felt a strange mixture of excitement and caution, a sense that this meeting would not just define her career but might also leave an unexpected mark on her personal life. Jared studied her quietly, his dark eyes calm, intense, yet carrying a hint of warmth. "Serena," he said deliberately, "what impressed me yesterday was not just the act itself, but the instinct behind it. You acted without expectation, without hesitation, and that tells me more than words or resumes ever could." Serena felt a faint flush rise to her cheeks. I was just trying to help someone," she murmured, aware of how ordinary it had seemed to her, yet realizing the profound impression it had made on him. He leaned back slightly, his gaze never leaving her. "Exactly. And that instinct, that judgment, that integrity. It's exactly what I look for in people I trust. Today, I want to see if that same character holds under pressure, and how you navigate the challenges before you." The conversation shifted naturally into the interview process, but the tone had changed. Jared's approach was measured, thoughtful. He wasn't merely assessing skill. He was evaluating resilience, judgment, and character. Every scenario he presented was carefully crafted to test Serena's ability to make decisions under uncertainty, to reveal her thought process, and to see how she balanced empathy with responsibility. Serena answered with precision, thoughtfulness, and honesty. Each answer demonstrated her competence, but more importantly, her authenticity. She realized that Jared's evaluation went beyond technical skill. He was looking for integrity, insight, and humanity. As they progressed, subtle tension built between them, not the anxiety of the interview alone, but a quiet, unspoken acknowledgement of mutual awareness. Jared's glances lingered slightly longer than necessary, and Serena caught the intensity behind his calm demeanor. She felt the stirrings of curiosity and intrigue, an acknowledgement that this was no ordinary interaction. "You handle pressure exceptionally well," Jared remarked, his tone calm but deliberate. "Most candidates would falter in the face of ambiguous challenges, but you think, assess, and act decisively. That's rare." Serena swallowed, a mixture of pride and apprehension washing over her. I faced situations where hesitation wasn't an option," she admitted softly. "I've learned to trust my instincts and judgment." Jared's gaze softened slightly. "I can see that. And it's not just about professional competence. It's about character. How you respond when no one is watching, how you make decisions with integrity, and how you balance empathy with responsibility." For a moment, silence settled over the room, the subtle hum of the building fading into the background. Serena felt a connection forming, not romantic yet, but deeply human. The stranger she had helped on the bus was no longer unknown. He had observed her, recognized her worth, and evaluated her in a way that transcended the ordinary confines of a professional interview. Jared shifted slightly, leaning forward, his voice quieter now, almost intimate. "Serena, I want you to know that I value what I see in you. Not just your skills but your character. And that matters more than any resume or portfolio could ever convey." Serena's heart raced. The words carried sincerity, authority, and an unexpected warmth. It was one thing to impress a CEO professionally, but it was entirely another to be recognized on a personal level, for qualities that had always been quietly integral to her identity. "Thank you," she whispered, her fingers fidgeting slightly with the edge of her folder. It means a lot to hear that." Jared's faint smile acknowledged her, subtle yet profound. "Good. Because I believe trust, respect, and integrity form the foundation of any meaningful relationship, professional or otherwise. And I hope that by the end of today, you'll see that as clearly as I do." The remainder of the session progressed with strategic discussions, scenario-based problem-solving, and careful evaluation of Serena's thought process. Yet underneath the professional facade, the connection between them deepened. A silent understanding began to form, a subtle recognition of capability, integrity, and an unspoken bond of respect. By the time the meeting approached its conclusion, the tension had transformed from anxiety to anticipation. Serena realized that this encounter, which began as a simple act of kindness on a rainy morning, had evolved into an assessment of character, a test of resilience, and the formation of a bond that extended beyond professional boundaries. Jared finally leaned back, nodding slightly, his eyes meeting hers with a calm certainty. "Serena, what I've observed today confirms what I suspected yesterday. You are capable, thoughtful, and principled. And that is exactly the kind of person I want involved in the company's future initiatives." Serena exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief, pride, and a quiet exhilaration filling her. The stranger she had helped, the man she had never expected to see again, had become the arbiter of her professional destiny. And beneath the professional evaluation, a subtle, slow-burning connection had begun to form, rooted in recognition, respect, and the faint beginnings of trust. As she prepared to leave, Serena realized that her life had shifted. A single act of kindness had cascaded into opportunity, recognition, and the possibility of a profound connection. And as she stepped into the hallway, glancing once more at Jared Klein, she knew that the story was far from over. What had begun as coincidence was evolving into a cinematic narrative of trust, empowerment, and emotional discovery. The afternoon sun filtered softly through the office windows, casting neutral, natural light across the polished floors and sleek furniture. Serena Vale sat across from Jared Klein, her mind still buzzing from the morning's events. The interview, intense and meticulously orchestrated, had tested not only her skills but her character, judgment, and composure. And throughout it all, Jared had observed her closely, not as a cold evaluator, but as someone genuinely assessing her potential, integrity, and the essence of who she was. "Serena," Jared began, his voice calm but charged with authority, "today has been more than a formal assessment. I've seen the qualities that matter most: courage, honesty, empathy, and insight. Those aren't found on any resume. They are demonstrated through actions, even small ones like yesterday's bus stop encounter." Serena felt a faint warmth in her chest. The stranger she had helped had observed her with an acute perception she hadn't expected, and now he was giving her acknowledgement that extended far beyond professional validation. "You impressed me not just with your preparation, but with your character," Jared continued. "It is rare to find someone who navigates life with such integrity, someone who can be trusted to act responsibly, decisively, and with heart. And I want to ensure that your talents and values are recognized, nurtured, and empowered." A subtle flush rose to Serena's cheeks. She had never imagined that a simple act of kindness, paying a stranger's bus fare, could lead to such a profound moment of recognition. The man before her, once unknown and mysterious, now represented opportunity, authority, and the validation she had longed for in her professional and personal life. I don't know what to say," Serena whispered, a mixture of awe, disbelief, and cautious excitement in her voice. "You don't need to say anything," Jared replied, his gaze steady and sincere. "What matters is what you've already demonstrated: the strength of your character, the clarity of your judgment, and the authenticity of your actions. That is enough for me to know that you are exactly the kind of person I want to involve in the company's future initiatives." Serena's mind raced. The interview, the encounter at the bus stop, and the revelation of his identity had all merged into a single cinematic moment, charged with suspense, opportunity, and subtle emotional tension. She realized that her careful, thoughtful actions had created ripples far beyond what she could have anticipated. Jared leaned forward slightly, his expression softening. "Serena, what I value is not only your skill but your humanity. You have proven that you can navigate challenges with grace, integrity, and empathy. And that is exactly what our team and I need." Her chest tightened, a mixture of pride and an unfamiliar flutter of connection stirring inside her. She had never been recognized in such a holistic way before, where professional competence and personal character were equally acknowledged. I appreciate your trust," she whispered. "And I promise to give my best, not only professionally but ethically, and responsibly in all that I do." Jared nodded, faintly approving, his gaze carrying an unspoken depth of acknowledgement. "Good. That is exactly what I wanted to see. And now there is one final step. The opportunity to join the company officially, with full recognition of your abilities and potential." He handed her a folder containing the official offer, carefully detailed, highlighting both responsibility and autonomy. Serena's hands trembled slightly as she opened it, absorbing the scope of the opportunity. The realization sank in. Her future, once uncertain, was now profoundly promising. "And," Jared added softly, a subtle shift in his tone, "I hope you also understand that our encounter yesterday was not accidental. It was, in a way, a small test, not of skill but of heart. And you passed, unequivocally." Serena looked at him, speechless. The stranger, once dependent on her small act of kindness, had now orchestrated the most meaningful evaluation of her life. It was surreal, overwhelming, and exhilarating all at once. For a long moment they simply looked at each other, quiet understanding passing between them. There was recognition, respect, and a subtle undercurrent of curiosity and attraction, a connection formed from sincerity, integrity, and shared experience. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion. "For seeing me, for trusting me, and for this opportunity." Jared's faint smile conveyed far more than words could capture. "It is you who deserves recognition, Serena. And I hope this is only the beginning of a journey that honors your character, your talent, and, perhaps, the trust we've begun to build today." The day faded into evening, the office bathed in soft natural light. Serena packed her folder, feeling both empowered and inspired. Her life had shifted from a single act of kindness to a full realization of opportunity, respect, and the first stirrings of a connection with a man whose judgment and recognition mattered profoundly. As she stepped into the building lobby, ready to face the world beyond, Serena realized that the stranger from the rain had become far more than an evaluator. He was a partner in the narrative of her life, someone who had acknowledged her worth, respected her character, and left the door open for both professional fulfillment and the subtle beginnings of a meaningful, slow-burn connection. The story that began with a simple act of generosity had culminated in recognition, empowerment, and the promise of future possibilities, both in her career and her heart. And as Serena looked back one final time, Jared's eyes met hers, steady, sincere, and undeniably attentive, hinting at the adventures, challenges, and trust yet to come.